You can see me, hear me. It's all working good.
Everything's
Cool.
oh man, been a minute. First two-parter guest. You've been on the first time, your first guest, back for a second time. So it's a great thing, man. It's been a
Yeah.
great turnout too.
No, I mean, it's crazy. We're already in February. Everything's been moving really quick, but it's good. It was good seeing you at that January show too. That was a cool spot.
Like I told you this at the show, I was like, didn't expect to actually go to the show until like maybe the last like 2 weeks, I would say. Probably like after New Year's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna definitely go to the show, because I was like,
Yeah.
might see somebody that is on the lineup, and I was like, damn, odds coming. So it was a great thing. Plus I got a bunch of merch too.
Yeah. I mean, it's always great seeing Odd One Out, but his girl does such a good job vending too. Like, I think she made off well with stuff she sold. I think she vended for Ryan too. So anything that gets it worthwhile for them to come up from Virginia.
Yeah, because man, we were talking maybe for like an hour before the show started, probably even like only a half hour, but I remember he told me it took him like 5 or 6 hours just to get to the Baltimore show, and I think it took him like 3 or 4 hours just to get to the DC show, and I was like, that's so much commitment in general. And I'm glad
I
that they
know.
did. I don't know if they sold out for a certain shirt, but I know when I was there, I bought like 2 or 3 shirts when I was there. I can't remember what they sold out of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, he did like a pretty tight print run on like some new Masterminds graphics that Big Problem Mac did. I should have bought it. He only brought a couple, but he'll send me one if I ask him.
All right, so straight into the questions. You already know the deal, man. Like, we already got the simple format that everybody knows. Coming off of the last month, I think I saw you did 3 shows, I think. 3 shows. So it was Union Stage, the charity event, and Base Odyssey. So how's it been in the last month? Because I'm pretty sure maybe beside the middle of the last summer, you probably did this large amount of shows in a short amount of time. So how's it been?
Yeah, it was a cool way to start off the year. With Phonk shows, you know, we're still trying to get it going in the live scene, right? So I wouldn't necessarily anticipate being busy every weekend or even doing a show like every single month, right? So it was cool to start off the year. Like, I think coming out of last year, I finally kind of got my shit together for mixing. So it was cool to I mean, the way I put it is it's like skydiving, right? Like your first time freaking out, you're just trying to make sure you survive, and then after a couple jumps you start to have some fun. So starting off with that Shrimpnose and Ryan Celsius show at Union Stage, which is a venue I've never played at. I thought it was a really cool spot. I mean, what was absolutely dope was me and St. Pond, we did a 2-hour back-to-back, and I had no idea until after, but Ryan was in the background just like cutting up visuals for us the entire time, which was super cool. Turnout was pretty good. I think all of the sets were pretty cohesive, and I mean, with any Phonk show, it's kind of like a homie, you know, get together type of thing where you see a lot of people that you normally don't get to see in person. So that was cool. And then I hit up Daddy Dirty just because I was going to be in Dallas anyways for something unrelated for work, and I was like, hey, happy to do a set. And so he got me on, and they found this like cool outdoor spot at a brewery in Dallas. So it was a cool scene. It was funny though. It was like 30 degrees outside. I packed like shorts like an idiot. Thought like, oh, Dallas, it must be really hot down here. But it was cool to link up with him. That was my first time seeing him in person. Got to chat it up with Ponsuda, meet DJ Kurz. It's like one of those Phonk Islands. I think you did a video on that, right? Where like you kind of have the Denver homies.
Yeah.
You got us over here on the East Coast, which, you know, number wise, it's like me, you, and Odd. And then, you know, I got Tyler, my manager, who's been great.
Yeah.
Putting on some Phonk stuff and dabbling in it. And then between Denver, Dallas, and here, those are kind of like the hubs, if you will. I think out in California, there was one guy named Bay Area Phonk. I don't know what happened to him. I think Lil Rockman did a show, but I think he was trying to get it going out there. And you got some people in Seattle or Washington trying to get it going too. So yeah, it was good to do that. And then I got like COVID or something, but like I was like a little bit sick after Dallas just because I'm turning 30. Like if I get 4 hours of sleep these days, like I feel old as hell. Yeah, finished it off with like a half-hour set at the Guilford Brewery, which this guy Base Eggs runs. It's really cool. He does this like Saturday charity show from like noon to midnight, basically. And it's a great opportunity, especially for producers who are dabbling, trying to figure out how to get into the live scene, how to mix. It's a really cool opportunity for them to go and do their like debut set. And every time I'm surprised, because when you think about free show, you think about like, you know, maybe like a DDJ 400 and some JBL speakers, but they bring in like the Hennessy rigs. We're playing on CDJ 3000s. They even had like pyrotechnics this time. like these I don't know how to explain them, but it's like done so proper for a free event, and not a lot of communities out there across the US really have that opportunity or that like community based type of show. So try not to take it for granted.
Yeah, definitely. Were they the same people that did the chair? It was at the same brewery as last year's show?
Oh yeah. You came last year when me and Trevor or St. Pond did our first back-to-back set. Like at that point, never done a back-to-back. I was still figuring out my shit. So it was really cool, like exactly a year later almost, when we did that 2-hour back-to-back at the Ryan show. Like, I mean, we had so much fun. We pulled Odd up on stage because we were just rinsing like 6 of his tracks, and the kid was going crazy. So
definitely,
it was
man.
cool.
Damn, that's crazy. The fact that I've seen you go from just doing like basically trying to get like a 1 hour set to basically doing like a back-to-back with Trevor, and I was like, it's gone a long way since like I've actually seen you start in general. And I'm not like trying to like sound like a big ass hard ass fan of you and everything, but it's like it's great to see people actually improve that I've seen like begin or like start to DJ or just get on the stage and do live sets in general, because you rarely see that point A to point B.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling you, man, anytime you're ready to give mixing and doing a live set a go, you know, you got me and St. Pond here to help you out. And I mean, to your point, dude, like my first set, like it kind of came out in last minute. This was back like October 2 years ago, and I thought it was gonna be like casual, like okay, who's gonna want to see me? I'm not gonna have much pull. And the other support brought a lot of people through. The headliner downstairs hadn't gone on stage yet, so all of a sudden there's a lot of people out on like the roof patio of this place called Flash, and I probably didn't look up the entire time for my first set. Like I'm just like up there freaking out, trying to like get through it. Nowadays, like you know, I can enjoy myself a bit more, take risks, like play on the audience a little bit. So it is good to see and kind of look back where you started.
Yeah, man. So going back to that, so like I said earlier, you brought Tyler's name up multiple times, especially with Head Nod. I'm gonna bring up you joining the actual roster for Phonk Around like later. But how has that impacted the shows that you've actually been to and future shows that Head Nod also plan to do in the future? Because they've been a big, I would say, proprietor. Like that's the word I would say when it came to DMV shows for Phonk in general. So how do you think it's going to turn out in the next year or two?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this maybe last time on your podcast, but I think it's cool to see like where it all started talking with Tyler and then like where we're going now, right? Where I always considered myself a bedroom producer, right? And like I didn't know if I don't think even, you know, there's no pressure for me to try to like make a living out of it or go full time. That's just my personal thing, keeping it casual and enjoying it. To go somewhere great. Some people are more like, I need to make this by this date. Here's who I am. I'm no longer that. Like, and they need to like set those kind of like boundaries and goals that are really like critical for them to hit. And for them, like that motivates them. They feed off of it. But again, for me, it was kind of like, man, the pandemic just hit. Like, let me start putting out more music, getting a little bit better at this. Got nothing better to do. So when Tyler hit me up on Instagram, he was like, yo, I'm looking to bring DJ Young Vamp to Baltimore. Would you open for him? I thought he was full of shit. Like I was like, who the hell is this random person hitting me up? Why is he interested in my music? Had no idea Young Vamp even like did live shows or anything. And so I was like, I don't think I'd have much pull. At that point, I didn't even know how to DJ. So like 2 weeks before the show, he hits me up again. He's like, hey, so Vamp's coming to Baltimore. Do you want to come and like meet up and like, you know, we can just talk about, you know, Phonk and all that. So then I was like, okay, well, Tyler's actually pretty legit. Got to meet him. Nice guy. Really smart, too. That Vamp show was great. I think you might have been at that, too. Really first time ever seeing, like, a Phonk live set. Yeah. At that time was, like, really new of a concept in general. So we got to talking, kind of started to learn how to mix. He said that he wanted to be my manager and kind of build out maybe like a Phonk show or at least a couple Phonk sets within the local bass music scene. And over time, I think really my first few shows were these big bass music scenes or shows where it's like, you know, halftime, deep dub, some drum and bass, all of that stuff. And so I didn't know how that audience would react to like an all Phonk set. And like a lot of the stuff I'm doing is like this like really cheesy, smooth jazz with like heavy Project Pat or like scrappy vocals over it. And it was a cool experiment because everyone there like really fucked with it. And honestly, if you go around the bass music scene, a lot of people actually are somewhat familiar with Phonk, like they'll dabble in it a bit where they know like Vamp or like Smokey. They might not know all of like the subgenres or what's built out. They'll know a Purple Posse, but not like a Masterminds or like a Lost Boys type of thing. So that helps where they kind of know what to expect, but you can like really surprise them. And again, I was really surprised at how well it sold within that whole area. But I think in the back of Tyler's mind, like he brought me in because he had this whole idea of doing like a whole Phonk show. And at that time, like, again, I think over the last 2 years in all of like the whole Phonk live scene, stars have really aligned. We're just by coincidence, everyone's kind of building it out together. So Ryan was going on tour, and Tyler has a pretty good relationship with Corey, who runs Phonk Around and Find Out. So they were talking, kind of planning about potentially doing a Phonk show around the time Ryan's looking to tour, and that's kind of was what built out the Enda Underground tour. That the first stop was in Baltimore, and first all Phonk show that I ever done, really first live like all Phonk show ever, because even for the Vamp show, the openers were kind of mixing hip hop or other stuff
and drum and bass too. I remember that a lot. And I think
yeah.
Rhythm at the time, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, even at the end of Vam's set, he was like dropping some rhythm too, and like at that point, everyone was like so loose they were fucking with anything. He was like rinsing it. But that whole tour went well. I mean, Corey did an incredible job. Ryan absolutely killed it on all the stops, and it's one of those things where, you know, in a lot of music communities, I think it can be easy to be like everyone's fighting for crumbs, and if it's not him, then it's going to be me. In the Phonk scene, it feels like, you know, what's the term, like rising tides raises all ships type of thing, where like along the tour, like Ryan made sure to elevate all of the support, all the people who are part of it, building out the notoriety of the Phonk Around and Find Out people. It made a big difference for, I think, a lot of us, and we all kind of realized that there could be a real live scene to carve out for Phonk. And then the last thing I'll note is just last year, especially at some festivals, there were some big headliners who were doing like alternative sets, mixing Phonk or like lo-fi and other stuff, just kind of like experimenting, which was really cool. Someone hit me up, I forget the festival. Point is that like very quickly, like this genre has been going into the music scene. And you mentioned what's next. I know it took a long time to get to there, but I think in terms of what's next, you know, definitely some more Phonk shows that are going to be happening out here. I think that promoters are starting to become not just like interested in kind of like teasing the idea of a Phonk show, but like people definitely want to throw it. And now it's just a matter of how and like how big. I mean, out in Europe, you have the DIY sort of element to it, where like they'll pack this like what looks like a basement with no windows with these crazy beat up subs, and just everyone's going wild, and like it looks so high energy. And then over here, I feel like you've seen in Baltimore, right, where they bring in like the Hennessy's, they got a visual artist in the back, CDJs, like super proper, but that costs more money than like if you do the DIY route. Yeah. And so I think it can exist in both. It's just now seeing what new spots we can kind of root up and get some more sets going, like maybe Virginia, Philadelphia. I'd love to have the Northeast do a bit more, especially because you have like Anocalypse and Intius up there.
Man, I remember like bringing up his name. It's the same thing. Like when I talked to him, he said there's plenty of room to like eat at the table. Like this isn't a competition, like at all. Like the best thing that all of us can do is help each other out. Like I keep saying, like my biggest inspiration for doing these videos or doing these interviews was the Phonk show, like what Teddy did. Like it's no type of competition or anything like that. It's just getting inspiration from other people and then just elevating our names, because who knows, like if I did this, like that people would either know my name or know any of the people that I'm talking to in general. So like,
yeah, I mean, and I'll just say to the point that you made, like it's very rare when you have like, I mean, that's what a subculture should be, right? Like where it's all community driven. Like having what Vaughn does with like Yokai, having Teddy out there doing the Phonk show, like people are churning out content, not just like releasing tracks, but kind of archiving and documenting and discussing like this genre that's developing, like so good for the health of the community and like for the genre, especially because like the whole point of a subculture is to be somewhat like undefinable, right? But still trying to capture and understand what's going on, what actually is Phonk, etc. So what you do and what the whole community is doing is just majorly important.
Yeah, man. I never expected anybody to like actually realize who I actually was, and I'm gonna say it multiple times in general. It's like I'm gonna just still be a fan over everything. Like I'm gonna just tell everybody that before everything, I'm a fan. Like I never expected to meet this many people in a short amount of time at all.
Yeah. Well, you dropped some fire too, bro. I keep asking you to send me headshots so I can rinse it. That shit's insane.
Bro, I keep forgetting all the time. It's just like getting people on and off when it comes to like talking to them in general and just trying to do like the uploads and everything. I keep forgetting to like answer my DMs half the time.
I'm the same way, dude. So trust me, no bad blood there. But it's been cool seeing everyone kind of get their shit together and everyone's motivating each other, right? It's one of those rare communities where no one's like beefing with each other. I mean, there's a whole vamp thing, but that's an isolated thing, right? Like it's not like, you know, Masterminds is trying to pull up on Cinder Circle or something.
Bruh.
You know, we're all chronically online veteran producers at the end of the day.
Yeah,
who are trying to
true.
figure out how to interact in the live scene. So
okay, so last time there was a sit down of us doing this was before the actual tour started. So what has changed positively to get more people out to shows since the actual beginning of the End of Underground tour?
Yeah, wow, was that really before the show? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was literally I think the day before the actual show. I think I met Trevor maybe like the second or third time ever, and then we just hung out with him and then we headed down to the show. But I was trying to promote it as much as I could, but ever since then, like I'm just wondering like what has happened to get more people out to shows in general.
Yeah. It's funny because when we talked, I feel like I kind of sounded like I knew what I was going to be expecting, what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing or what I was going to expect, to be honest. But I alluded to it, but a lot of the Phonk community is very much chronically online sounds bad, but very much online, like bumping on Discord, communicating over like DMs, like even like with collabs, like I'll hit someone up, be like, hey, do you want to work on this? Sure, send it. I send it to them. They send it back. We drop. We're like, shake hands. Great job, bro. But then over time, you kind of get to talking about just your life and music and all that stuff. So I think in the first few shows, like it's tough to get that audience, I think, out to the live scene. This isn't necessarily like the local community like bass scene who like goes out every weekend for shows. Like for a lot of these people, especially the ones who came out to Baltimore and introduced themselves, like Young Demon came out, heard the name before, but like didn't know much about him. Like now we're working on stuff together. Like over time, people have started to come out progressively more and realize that there's a community for them in the live scene. And when you see that, like you want to go to more of it. Like you always show up for us just because we can always kick it and like chat's a good place for us to meet. Don't have many people, at least in my life, who like, aside from my friends who like in the music scene, like my friends from college don't know much about Phonk. Like I can't really talk to them about it. Like they don't necessarily know what I'm referring to, and they're not even like producers themselves. So when people see not only like you have these incredible headliners like Ryan and Vaughn and Back When like doing their thing, I mean they're incredible to see in itself, but also once you start to like lift your head up and look around and you have all these people around you like-minded, love Phonk, whether they're listeners, whether they make it, like it takes time, but you see, I've seen that momentum come where people are reaching out more interested in like showing up, saying, yo, keep me posted on like when your next set is, or like when Ryan's touring again, etc. Like a lot of the people who came to that Union Stage show for Ryan, last time I saw them was in Baltimore for the show, which is like it's like a homecoming type of feeling. So point I'm saying is that I think it takes time to get those people out of their, you know, armchairs and then like out to the scene, while also kind of integrating in the existing bass music scene that exists and then seeing those two communities mix. And it's been promising. Again, I think the biggest chat hurdle is for promoters who have been doing bass music shows or drum and bass shows, whatever you want to call it, who dabble in Phonk again, don't necessarily know the players, they've never thrown it, there's money on the line. When everything goes well, it just kind of echoes to everyone else. Like to just say, hey, we had a sold out show, all Phonk, all of a sudden a lot of those other promoters and organizers are like, oh, like this is doable. Like I've wanted to do this. And so that's where I think it's going.
Okay, it sounds like everybody knows what they want in general when it comes to like the turnout. It's just a matter of time before we actually get sold out venues consistently, I would say, because that's the same thing that I feel like Dirty and Bright also want when I talk to them as well. It's just a matter of time. Like it does take a lot of patience, because this is, well, in short terms, a slow growing community, especially underground wise, I would say.
Yeah, and I think it's growing rapidly online. But like talking with Corey and Tyler, like they were level setting, being like, hey, you know, like people are really interested in throwing Phonk shows, but like, you know, some people haven't thrown one before, don't know what to expect, etc. Like I need to us all to take a step back. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years of this, with how rapidly this is growing out, like for an online genre like that, like it's not like you saw lo-fi explode rapidly into the live scene like the way this has, at least in my opinion. So sure, like there's room to grow, but from where we were, where I didn't ever even contemplate mixing live or even going to see a live show, to now it's like, where's the next one that we're going to?
Yeah.
Like that in itself is like a huge difference.
Like I remember, I don't even know if I said it, but like just 2 years ago, we didn't even know each other. Well, I wasn't even producing 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. Like I did to now, like what's happening, bro. Like 2019, 2020, I didn't even know what FL Studio was. And now just to be on there, like on a monthly or a weekly basis at this point, it's just insane. To get where I was now, or to get where everybody is now, is just kind of crazy how fast and how quickly everybody's growing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just good for our mental, right? Like the pandemic absolutely was brutal for some of my friends and family, especially the ones who like needed to be out. Like me personally, like I'm coming to my late 20s. I'm a bit more of a homebody. I loved just being able to produce every day, like nonstop. There's nothing else to do. And to like really tone that craft. And my point is, like, whether someone finds, you know, this as their career or as a hobby, like it keeps us healthy, I think, you know?
Yeah, definitely, man. So going to your actual discography, your summer mix for the shows that you did, along with Blunts with Ann. I think it was the BLP Kosher remix, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So what was the inspiration for both your drops? Because those right now from your actual SoundCloud are your top drops for this year. This isn't counting your Underdogs EP or your Get Your Cash solo with Blunted.
Yeah, we can put those to rest. Those are like 2 years old. Those still do numbers. The live mix thing, like I had been meaning to record a set for so long, and for a lot of like festivals, they'll even like either ask or there's the opportunity to upload like a 30-minute set. So I needed to do that for a multitude of reasons, but this is a little bit more self-centered. But I feel like funk, like when you think of it, it's usually like that 130 BPM, like head bobbin, or like that really grimy, like Barry main sound, which I love both of them, but a lot of my mixes are like more jazzy and like the 150s. Try to get a little bit of like drum and bass in there if I can, especially if it's like that jungle, like more like raw warehouse sound to it. But I just wanted to release like one, of course, like having my stuff, but two, more of that like jazzy rare funk is somewhat danceable, moving back down to the 130 with the like OG funk and then like bringing it back up. So I was really excited too, I guess. You know, I felt like it was something different, but now that we have so many people mixing, like you see a lot more variety and diversity, I think, within the mixes themselves. And then Blunts with Ann, I've really been on a city pop kick, like Japanese city pop. And I was listening to this one and just like trying to figure out something to go with. And like, I mean, that was around the time like Kosher was going viral on socials, and I was like, this would be so fucking funny to put Kosher like a Japanese city pop and then just drive the whole thing with like a ridiculous 808. So it came together really well. And then like Dre Mathis just released that video of him like breaking it down to it, and that was shot so well too. So again, I mean, it's great like when other people fuck with my stuff. You never really know, like when you click upload and play. I have tracks that flop that I think are like my favorites, and then I have stuff where I'm like, this took 2 hours to make, you know.
Yeah,
what's it gonna do, and people still mess with it. So hopefully that provides some background there.
Got you. So transitioning from your mix to the actual Shrimpnose show that was in DC. What were your thoughts on the actual turnout? Because like you said earlier, Ryan was doing visuals the entire time before you actually showed up to the venue. He said he has his, like, I'm not like, he has his rig, he has his visuals and everything, doing it in the back, and odd vending at the actual event. Like, what were your thoughts on that show overall? Because that was actually the last show that we actually saw each other since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it was still surprising because I'd have to check with Tyler, but I think it was one of those shows where him and Head Nod kind of got brought into it, where it wasn't necessarily them having to put all their money down on the line and like build it out. Like he came in because I think, you know, his relationship with Tyler, or with doing a show with Ryan Celsius, being close with me and Trevor, you know, I think it makes sense to go on before him and Shrimpnose. And so overall, I thought the turnout was a lot better, not knowing necessarily what the pre-sales looked like. Apparently the pre-sales were pretty good, talking to Alex. Again, like, it's so heartwarming like really like a Hallmark movie type of feeling that like
Mhm.
all those people from Baltimore that came out for the first time like came out again here, even though this time it was in DC. And that venue was cool, man. Like the setup was really proper. I thought it was great that you had Shrimpnose playing on his like I think Ableton loop or whatever it was. It was an MPC. Then you had Ryan's rig, which like I got to see firsthand when I'm up there mixing. Like that thing is elaborate as hell. And then like
Yeah.
you had the CDJs for me and Trevor, so it all worked really seamlessly. I think Shrimpnose's set was like so high energy, which I had never seen a live set of his. But a lot of his stuff, if you look at his Spotify, is more like chill and like ethereal, and like he just like went absolutely insane. Like it was all so cohesive, which is great. I think it's my point. Turnout was good. Everyone, I think, walked away wanting more too. Like they wanted to see another event like this. So
Yeah, man, because bro, I think we stayed for like an hour after the actual after the actual event was done, because I was like,
yeah,
bro, I don't even know what time I think it probably ended like either 12 or 1 in the morning, but I didn't get back to my hotel room until like 2 in the morning, maybe 1:30. And I was like, I do not want this shit to end, bro. like
yeah,
every single time there's a show that big or there's a show with that strong of a lineup, it's like you don't want it to end. That's always the thing.
yeah, and I mean, like, you got to give props to like Ryan and Shrimp because, like, I mean, especially like within the funk community, if Ryan shows up in your city, like, make it worthwhile, and like, you should be getting out there. So I think that both of those headliners really helped with turnout. It's not every day. I mean, now that he's coming off of a tour, again, if you go in a time machine and look back at the idea of seeing a like live show of Ryan, even especially before that New Year's Eve one he did with Flying Lotus, like people were screaming and asking for it. Like they were so eager for that opportunity, and now it's a reality. And again, like we just need to keep it going, supporting, uplifting each other, showing up when we can. And again, that's coming from someone like me, who I'm not necessarily like the biggest like festival goer or live scene type of individual, but it's been great coming out for them, and I'm glad I have. So
Yeah. So question, and I asked two people this: what's the origins of your actual alias and your name? Because
yeah,
I
actually,
didn't ask you that before, and I just want to
yeah,
know.
people have asked before. So like really when I used to be big into like skateboarding and snowboarding, before I got more into music. Like I grew up playing guitar and like understood basic music theory, made beats here and there, but like when my shoulder just got so beat up, I had to give that up. I was like looking for another creative outlet. So me and my friend in college started playing around like FL. We had a drum machine, doing all that. And then once we like went into the real world, of course, like coming out of college, I didn't necessarily want to move back in with my parents in Boston. Like I loved Maryland, I loved the DC area, so I took the first job that I could find. And we were catching up one day, just like cracking up about how terrible we were of kids, like just real pieces of shit, you know. And now like I'm walking home with my like polo tucked into my waistband, like paying taxes. I'm like, oh, like you know, you're like shitty kids now. We're like well-meaning citizens, and so that's kind of how like just talking with him, Bad Kids Good People came out. But the reason I landed on it also is just like I did a bunch of like YouTube and Google searches and stuff, like trying to make sure that that name hasn't been taken yet. So like from like an SEO standpoint or like search engine results, like it's really helpful. I think like if you search my name, it's really easy to find all of these results that come up about me, rather than if I had the name like DJ Villain. Think about how many like different things would be competing for that. So it's like a mouthful. It's a bit annoying to have to like say loud. Like when I went to a festival to check in, they're like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Bad Kids, Good People." I just say it like 3 times. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but I think from a like results standpoint and like share of voice, especially it helps because no one else is really competing for that term.
I'm glad I actually know it now. So like, man, because I remember Freddy told me the origins of his. I think I talked about
Oh,
it
I would love to
once.
hear that. Did you drop his interview with him yet? I was curious why you
Dude,
chose that.
so funny enough, like I already have like 3 or 4 people already set up. He was not supposed to actually talk to me at all. It randomly came out. I DM'd him, was like, yo, it's that time, when I didn't even have anybody scheduled for like a week or two. And I was like, okay, let me talk because we're cool with each other. I'm like, okay, is he gonna be down? And he was so down. He was like, yo, whenever you're ready. And like we got the time zones ready. Dude, we were talking for like a solid like 4 hours, bro. Like that's gonna be a long one. That's gonna be a long one. It's probably gonna take me like the entire 2 weeks of like having every single interview. But I'm really excited for that one to actually get posted publicly.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a dope producer. Like, it's funny because we make a lot of the similar vibe, and like every time I put his shit on, I'm like this is so good. It almost makes me not want to produce. Like, um, well, what's been good to see is like I feel like he was focusing on school or something for a while, but like I saw that he did a live show out somewhere in like Europe or the UK. I think he's
Mhm.
doing something with Teddy coming up. Like he's coming out doing his thing. If he ever wants to come to the US, I'm sure we can get him on a playbill or into a set.
Yeah, man, we could talk about like in like the next 10 to 20 minutes, like because I'm gonna do like the actual thing that everybody's gonna see on YouTube, and then behind the scenes or like exclusive for Spotify to get more people over on Spotify.
Smart.
But bro, I'm gonna just talk about that later when it comes to like him coming to the US, because I really want him to come over here, and it's gonna be so much fun, man.
Hell yeah.
So talking about back-to-backs with St. Pawn, how has he been able to elevate your producing overall along with your DJing in general? And if there's any other names, you can shout them out too that have helped you out.
Yeah, like man, like I remember the first time I met Trevor, basically he was doing his manager reached out to me, he was friends with Tyler, and his manager was like, hey, I represent a funk artist. His name's St. Pawn, he's playing at midnight at Flash Club. So I was like, oh cool, like that's 10 minutes from where I live right now. Met him, met St. Pond, and over time, like, you know, got to meet him. And not only is he an incredible producer, like, you'll be surprised. We his discography dropped, I think, like 15 tracks, but he has like 40 works in progress that are pretty much ready to go. Like, he's been producing for years. So he's an incredible producer, but like one of the biggest like takeaways that I got from it is not just like now I have this other homie to talk about and like work with, but he's unbelievable at mixing live. Like I wish you could have like had a bird's eye view of us playing our like back to back, because a lot of like what I learned from mixing is really just from like talking with him and like taking down tips. My first set, I really just like enveloped out like the last track and then enveloped in the next one. But now like everything's to a grid. Like I understand kind of how to do doubles, how to play, take the bass out, how to transition. Like basically I learned a lot from him. And like there's even more to go from there, where like he was really like looping live. I don't know. Point is learned a lot from him. And then again, it was finally great to like do our second back to back exactly a year later, where like we can kind of have four hands all on the controllers and communicate really well, add to something that he's doing or like vice versa. So I mean, he's a good friend, great producer, and really incredible at mixing, which I think a lot of people are learning to mix now, but he has those fundamentals that can kind of transcend genres, right? So
Yeah, man. I think this is personally me because I'm biased, but I really my favorite lineup was the 810 lineup. Like when it was him, you, then I'm pretty sure it was Vaughn, then Beck, then
yeah,
Ryan. Like that was
that was
probably awesome.
and his set, like I was so pissed that St. Pawn didn't record it, because like
It was so
oh
good,
man, he
bro.
brought the energy, dude. He brought like he was like throwing jungle and then all of a sudden like some dirt track and then into like OG funk, and it was just like his like mind was exploding onto everyone. So good, dude. It was tough for me to like to go on to do my set, because I was like, oh, this kid could rock and roll for another 5 hours. Like, yeah, that was an incredible set. That day was crazy too, because it was like 95-degree humidity. Everyone was like sweating face, but people came out for it.
Yeah, man. I just hope that we can get everybody else back here for real, because I would be so down to just hang out with y'all and do a tour vlog with y'all, or like do any type of content with y'all. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, well, there'll be more to come this year. I know there's a couple potential shows that are like in the works, which will be really cool. But of course, like they always want to make sure they have all the final details solidified before they start
Making it
like
public, I guess.
yeah.
Okay.
But again, that's always a good opportunity to document or just to like meet up and talk to people, because again, people show up. It's like one of the only opportunities where you get everyone in the same place, you know?
Okay, so are there any talks on future drops when it comes to both Masterminds and Marijuana Mafia? Because I know you guys just dropped one tape for Marijuana Mafia, but what about Masterminds?
Yeah, we got some cool stuff in the works. Like I love Masterminds, because I think for the most part we've been pretty consistent with making sure we keep dropping tapes. Like you see a lot of collectives come and go, or like they kind of take a break and then become active, or they kind of reorganize. So we've had the consistency, but I don't think it's been announced yet. It might have been on Discord, but we're doing a collab tape with Center Circle. which I think will be really cool. That's been something we've been talking about for a while. And Center Circle is kind of the same case where they're really consistent, really motivated. Everyone's really on board with it. So that'll be really cool. Probably dropping sometime in April. And then on the Marijuana Mafia side with all the French homies, I love them to death. Like those dudes are so hungry, where basically they're dumping all of these tracks that are pretty much done that they're not releasing into this area where they'll pick one of us to basically curate and hand pick all of the projects that they think are cohesive and go through. And I think the last tape, Yoli, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was the one who curated it, and it came together really well. A lot of those people, you know, I'm a bit newer to meeting. Like me and Blunted, we've been collabing and talking since like 2019 or 2020, something like that. But he brought in a lot of these like new hungry producers, which like I kind of consider almost like the third wave, where like you had your OGs like Smokey, Purple Posse, Holy Mob, Ponsuda, all of those people who really influenced, I think, people like me who got more active, especially during the pandemic, to come out. And then over the last year, I've just seen this like explosion of producers who have probably been producing for a while, but are really becoming active in the community, like Disc Off, Young Demon, Yoli, Olaf, and they're consistently doing like those beat battles that Little Rocket Man's throwing. Like the point is, like, you have like this continually growing base of both fans and producers, and they're all driven to kind of network and like build this community together. And I think a lot of that is influenced just based on, you know, the live scene coming about and people really reaching out and networking. So
okay, got you. We're gonna finish with this final question, then we're gonna do behind the scenes and then talk about everything else.
Cool. All
in
right.
the future. So future guest or someone that you want to see on the actual channel, who's someone that you want to see that hasn't been on here?
That's a good question. I would have said Inocalypse, but I know he did it because he's great, man. He's someone great to just like pick your brain, like, or pick his brain. I'll say Ponsuda, I think, would be someone really interesting.
Already got him, bro.
It was cool.
Really,
like, I was like,
it's really difficult, man.
I was chumming up with him a little bit, like when I had just gone to Dallas, and that guy is like so humble, so motivated. Even though they're down in Dallas, everyone's really like-minded with where they want to go and kind of raise all tides. So if I can't choose him, then I would say
it's really difficult, man. Like there's
I want to be deliberate too. I'm trying to think of someone who would have a different perspective. I think getting like the La Fonkery people or someone from the French scene to talk about what their like live scene and what they're doing out there is. I know a lot of those European homies are kind of doing like a tour, like Got No Time, Sage, a lot of them, because it's cool. Like when me and Trevor or St. Pond are trading notes with the Marijuana Mafia kids and like what they're seeing out there. Because if you see any footage, and it's pretty limited, because I think they prevent you from like filming in a lot of those venues, but it's so high energy, dude. It's like a different world. It like really feels like an underground setting where everyone is just absolutely going nuts, and people out here like, you know, absolutely vibe to it too. But I would love to do a show in Hamburg or something. So maybe Sorry Man, or what's his name, Little Problem. That would be a cool that would be actually a really funny interview, because like, what, he's only like 15, right? Like, and he's just going into it. So yeah, if you get the opportunity, man, interview some of those French homies. I want to hear firsthand from them, like, you know, their perspective on all this stuff.
Yeah, definitely, man.